So in Aesop's fable of the dog and his shadow, there's a dog who's thrown a bone by a butcher, and happy with his bone, he's strutting home and he walks along a narrow bridge to get back to his house. And he looks down and he sees what he thinks is a bigger dog with a bigger bone walking below him. So obviously it's his reflection. He dives into the water to get that second bigger bone off the other dog, and in the process loses his own bone, realizes that that second bone was just his reflection. He swims out onto the riverbank and he has nothing. So obviously the lesson here from Aesop is don't be greedy, right? If you've got something, stop looking around at everyone else's things, trying to get their things as well. He tells us a very similar story in The Hawk and the Nightingale, but in this story, the hawk is intelligent enough to not try to get that bigger thing. So in this story, there's a hawk who catches a nightingale, which is a very small bird, and the nightingale, after the hawk has caught him in his talons ready to eat him, the nightingale says, "Why would you eat me? I don't have much flesh on me. I'm not very tasty. And look in that other tree over there. There are tons of bigger birds that you could catch and have a much more fulfilling meal." And the hawk responds, "You would have me let you go in hopes of something better, would you? Pray, who would be the fool then?" And you might know the moral of this story that has been passed down through the generations, even if this story is not as well known. The moral of the story is a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, meaning you should keep what you've got. Stop looking for things that might be down the track, that might be better, because chances are they will never arrive. Be grateful and happy with what you have. In the fable of the lion and the mouse, there's a mouse who's trying to get home, but there's a lion sleeping in his path. And to get past the lion, the mouse has to run over the lion's nose. So that's what happens. The mouse runs over the lion's nose, and the lion, in rage, grabs the mouse and traps it, ready to kill it for waking him up. And the mouse says, "Please, please let me go, and I will return the favor one day." And the lion laughs at him and says, "How would a tiny mouse like you ever be able to help a big lion like me?" And sure enough, a few months later, the lion is out hunting and he gets caught in a hunter's trap. And he's roaring, trying to get out, roaring. And from a distance, the mouse hears the roar and thinks, great, this is my chance to save the lion. So the mouse comes up to the lion and gnaws through the ropes that are trapping the lion down. And as the lion stands up, finally free, the mouse says to him, "You laughed when I said I would repay you. Now you see that even a mouse can help a lion." And of course, the moral of this story is no good deed goes unpaid. If you do something even to the lesser of the people around you, it will come back to you in spades in the future. So always be kind and do good deeds even to people who you think will never be able to help you out in the future. In Hercules and the Wagoner, there's a wagoner who's literally someone in a wagon going from one town to the next, and the wagon gets stuck in the mud. And the wagoner sits on his wagon that's stuck in the mud, crying out to the gods, saying, "Hercules, Hercules, come and save me, please come and save me." And Hercules, frustrated at this wagoner, comes down to see the wagoner, and instead of helping him out, Hercules says, "Put your shoulders to the wheel, my man, goad on your bullocks, and never pray to me for help until you have done your best to help yourself, or depend on it, you will henceforth pray in vain." And the moral of this story is, of course, the gods will help those who help themselves. Stop praying and calling out for help from others when it's within your power yourself to help yourself. There's a very similar one called The Ants and the Grasshopper, which is actually the plot of the movie Ants, where there's grasshoppers out dancing and playing and singing all summer long while the ants are gathering their food. And then at the end of the summer, when it's starting to get cold, the grasshopper comes up to the ants with his ukulele under his arm and says, "Please give me some food. I've been playing my music all summer, and now when it comes to winter, I don't have any food to store for the winter. I'm going to starve." And the ants respond, "Making music were you? If you were foolish enough to sing all summer, you must dance supperless to bed in the winter." And they turned their backs on the grasshopper and went on with their work. And the moral of this story that has continued to be passed down through the generations is there is a time for work and there is a time for play. But the core of this is the same message as the Hercules and the Wagner. Do the work yourself. Put in the hard work. Don't expect other people to do the hard work for you. In The Farmer and the Stork, we start out with a bunch of cranes who are flying around, being very playful, and they come across a stork and they say to the stork, "Come with us, we're going to eat some seeds that the farmer has recently sown in his yard." And so the cranes and that one stork all come together, and the cranes have sort of pulled and cajoled the stork into joining them. They all come together and they start eating the farmer's seeds. But the farmer was smart and he put out some traps to prevent this from happening, and he ends up trapping all of the cranes and this one stork. And when the farmer comes out to the stork ready to kill the stork like he's killed the cranes, the stork says, "But I'm a stork, we are beautiful and we are even-tempered animals, we are calm animals, please let me go. I was cajoled into joining these cranes, it's not in my personality to steal from you." And the farmer says, "You may be a very good bird, but I caught you with the thieving cranes and you will have to share the same punishment with them." So of course the moral of this story is one that you might be familiar with. You are the company that you keep. If you hang out with people who are sort of not doing the right thing, who are misbehaving, who are committing crimes, then expect to be judged the same as them. In The Herdsman and the Lost Bull Calf, there is a herdsman who loses this calf, this young bull, and he goes around looking for it everywhere, and he can't find it. So he prays to the gods and he says, "Gods, if you find the person who stole my bull calf, I will sacrifice a lamb to you because I want to catch this person and I want to punish them for what they did to me." And so the gods lead him to this lost bull calf, and what happens is he walks over the hill and he finds the bull calf. It is in the hands of a lion. The lion is just finishing off eating the carcass of this lost bull calf. And the lion looks up at the herdsman as if he's about to pounce on the herdsman and eat him too. And the herdsman stops and he looks up to the gods and he prays to the gods one more time. And he says, "Gods, if you let me escape this lion that you led me to, then I will not only sacrifice a lamb, I will also sacrifice a full-grown bull to you in thanks for saving my life." Now, the moral of this story is be careful what you wish for. Stop going around boastfully saying, "I'm going to do this to this person or this to that person. I'm going to punish people who have harmed me." Because when it comes to the time when you're face to face with that person or that thing that you promised to do, you may come to regret it. And you see this all the time, people saying, "Oh, I'm going to go and fight that person who's done me wrong," when that person is 10 times the size of them and could very well hurt them. Stop being so bashful and have a think about what you're doing, because you may lead yourself into danger with your bashful comments. In The Goat Herd and the Wild Goats, we get a moral story about loyalty. This story involves a goat herd with his goats. These ones are tame goats that he's herding around. And a storm comes when they're up in the high mountains and they try to find somewhere to seek shelter. So they enter a cave where there are already some wild goats who are bigger and stronger than the tame goats hiding in the cave. And they all hide, the wild goats and the tame goats, together. And the goat herder only has a certain amount of food for each of them. So the goat herder says, "I'm going to give all of my food to these bigger, stronger wild goats because they're going to be my goats now. And once the storm ends, I'm going to have bigger, stronger goats than these tame ones that I had." So the tame ones end up dying of hunger. And the storm ends, and this is where the goat herd's behavior comes back to bite him. The wild goats scamper off into the hills, and the goat herd says, "Is this the thanks that I get for feeding you and treating you so well?" And the wild goats turn back to him as they're running off into the woods, and they say, "Do not expect us to join your flock. We know how you would treat us later on if some strangers would come and do what we did." And the moral of this story is it is unwise to treat old friends badly for the sake of new ones. If you, every time you stumble upon a new friend who's a little bit cooler or a little bit better looking or could help you a little bit more, and you shun your old friends because you think that you've stepped up and you've got some cooler new friends, you will find that it will come back to bite you. You should be loyal and caring and loving to all of your old friends just as much as your new friends, because that is a sign of your moral consistency. That is a sign that you're a good person and you will be rewarded for that from your friends who see your loyalty. If you enjoyed these fables, don't forget to watch this next video, which is about practical wisdom fables that can help you in your daily life.